Chapter 267. It was fine to express one's dissatisfaction appropriately, but going too far was just as bad as not going far enough. Thea removed the psychokinesis control on Amanda and used a ball of mana to bring her to the ground. Looking at Amanda's high heels and short skirt, she was once an elite Special Forces soldier. However, after many years of administrative work, it was hard to say how much of her previous foundation was left. Now that she was more than 5 meters above the ground, Thea was afraid that she would sprain her ankle. However, Amanda did not appreciate it at all. She used her chin to point at Toad, who was cutting Senator Hammond's body with a small knife, and asked, "Can you deal with this guy?" Thea looked at it. "I need some time." After saying that, she stopped moving. Toads were unbeatable in the eyes of ordinary people, but to her, they were not much more difficult to deal with than the clown girl. It was still on a different level. However, she did not immediately rush over to knock Toad out and take him away. She was still waiting. She was waiting for Senator Hammond to breathe his last. Looking at Toad cutting his own father's body left and right, Thea felt all sorts of pleasure. At the same time, she could also intimidate Amanda. It was better not to play with fire. No one was more foolish than the other. Amanda saw that Thea did not move and thought about the conversation between Thea and Senator Hammond. Their last interaction was probably not positive. However, good luck was still on her side. Fortunately, she called Thea over today. Otherwise, if Toad showed his might, she, Amanda, would not be able to keep her life. That feeling of powerlessness was even heavier when she heard Senator Hammond's screams. After waiting for 3 minutes, Thea took a glance. Very good, the senator had breathed his last. It was time for her to finish her work. Although Toad's psychokinesis technique was extremely crude, Thea could not use her psychokinesis to control him. She could only use physical means. For the time being, she did not want to expose the existence of the space ring. She wanted to find a weapon in the room and quickly take down Toad. "Is it okay if I kill this guy?" Thea asked Amanda softly. "If you can capture him alive, it's best if you can. This guy's psychokinesis is very strong. Even if I knock him out, do you have any means to control him?" "Humph." Amanda felt that she finally had a chance to save some face. The Heaven's Eye Society's foundation is beyond your imagination. Thea nodded and didn't say anything. She had just noticed that Amanda had a small device that was similar to a mind control device. After all, it wasn't 1918 now. Human science and technology were developing every day, especially in this world where black technology was everywhere. It wasn't unusual for there to be some small tricks that could be used against mind control. The Toad didn't give up on trying to teach her a lesson. It was as if he was practicing a qigong. Wave after wave of psychokinesis surged toward her, but Thea easily dispelled it. This thing is not bad." Thea picked up a long rope from the ground. She had learned how to use a noose from Diana on Paradise Island, and she had practiced it when she had nothing to do in that small village. Although she wasn't as good as Diana, it was still a piece of cake for her to deal with this Toad. The Toad didn't dodge the noose that was coming for his neck. Or rather, he couldn't dodge it even if he wanted to. Thea wrapped the noose around his thick neck and pulled him up from the ground like she was pulling a carrot out of a carrot. Then, she swung her arm and slammed him against the wall. The wall of the Heaven's Eye Society was very thick. The Toad's 200-pound body didn't even shake the wall when he slammed against it. Disgusting! Thea looked at the yellow pus on the wall and felt a little nauseous. This guy was a female hero's natural enemy. In order to punish him for his disgusting appearance, she swung her arm and wrapped the noose around his neck. Then, she slammed him against the wall on both sides. At first, she could still hear the Toad's loud cries. However, after the Toad's 5th close contact with the wall, Thea realized that the psychokinesis in the room had completely disappeared. She knew that the Toad had probably fainted. "Alright, this guy fainted. Why did you call me all the way here?" Thea wanted to finish her sentence and leave as soon as possible. The Toad's appearance meant that Hal Jordan had become the Green Lantern. According to the movie's sequence, the Parallax Devil was about to appear. Thea didn't want to stay here for even a minute longer. In the movie, Hal Jordan made full use of the intelligence of the people on Earth. No matter what kind of monster was thrown into the sun didn't disappoint the people on Earth. No matter what kind of enemy it would burn them to death. But how was that possible? The Parallax Devil had destroyed countless galaxies and stars. Why would it be afraid of the sun? Now that she was in the real world, Thea was more willing to believe that there was a higher existence that defeated the Parallax Devil for some unknown reason. Otherwise, it would be more accurate to say that Hal Jordan, a Green Lantern recruit, defeated the Green Lantern Corps' nemesis for countless years. Damian Wayne could beat Merlin after learning magic for a day. Amanda's original plan was to use Oliver's information to suppress Thea. However, she couldn't understand Thea's current level of power, so she didn't dare to act rashly. She could only activate her backup plan. Although I don't know why you want to build a temple, we helped you with your relationship with the government. You admit that, right? But I just saved you. Don't tell me that the guy on the ground with a swollen head knocked himself into the wall and fainted? Amanda's attitude was showing signs of softening. Thea's tone naturally softened as well. The two of them joked amiably as if nothing had happened. Amanda smiled. Her black skin made her big white teeth look even more prominent. You saved me for a private matter. I used the name of the Heaven's Eye Society to help you. This is official business. I'll compensate you for your private matters in the future. Compensate my ass. Thea calculated the time. Based on what she said, Oliver must be in her hands now. She thought that she didn't know, so she had to pretend that she didn't know. Understanding the plot was troublesome. There were many things that she couldn't explain. The so-called compensation for her private matters was to hand Oliver over to her, right? Damn it. She saved her for nothing. Then what's the matter? Hasn't Batman been in close contact with you? Can't you look for him? Amanda was furious when she mentioned Batman. The Joker was the good-looking leader of Amanda's villains. He was smart, crazy, and had no superpowers. If the Joker was in her hands, her plan of forming a villainous team would be more than half complete. Unfortunately, Batman was stubborn. Amanda's call was useless. There was no room for negotiation when it came to the Joker. She couldn't tell Thea the truth that the Heaven's Eye Society and Batman's negotiations had fallen through. She could only say, Batman has a lot of things to do recently. We think you're more free. Thea naturally didn't comment on this. What does it have to do with you? The president is also free. How dare you give him something to do? Then tell me the truth. Why did you ask me to come here? Thea felt that time was precious. She didn't want to waste time arguing with her. If it was easy, she would agree. If it was difficult, she would say that she couldn't do it. Chapter 268. Murphy's Law was very accurate at times. The more one feared trouble, the faster it would come. Just as Avatar opened his mouth to speak, a terrifying, huge, and vast mental power descended from the sky, crushing their consciousness in an instant. Avatar held on for a little while before fainting. Damn it! I should have fainted. Thea instinctively held on for a second, but now she regretted it. If she had fainted like Avatar, nothing would have happened. However, her weak resistance immediately aroused the other party's interest in her. As if it was toying with her, it began to increase the mental pressure exponentially. Thea felt that her mental power was like a small boat in a raging sea, while the other party was like a raging sea, sending out violent waves every second. She could only try her best to concentrate and face all kinds of unexpected situations. There were several times when Thea felt that her mental power had reached a dead end. She didn't dare to imagine the consequences of her consciousness entering a dead end. She could only rely on the persistence in her mind to return to clarity. She didn't know how long she had been under this mental attack. When she regained control of her body, she found herself half kneeling on the ground. Sweat had accumulated all over her body, and her clothes looked like they had been washed by water. However, she didn't have time to care about her clothes. She pushed her wet hair away from her forehead and looked straight ahead. Sure enough, the toad that was knocked out stood up again. Its swollen head was replaced by a blurry yellow light. The mental wave that caused her to be in such a sorry state came from there. Inspector Devil? It didn't seem like it. The Inspector Devil was born from the fear of all intelligent creatures. It was between formless and corporeal. It would choose its host strictly. The parallax monster that fused with its host was called the parallax demon. It wasn't that Thea looked down on the toad. Even if he begged to be its host, the Inspector Devil wouldn't take him seriously. If she remembered correctly, the toad was accidentally infected with some parallax demon cells when he was dissecting the body of the former Green Lantern. Perhaps someone could tell where the parallax monster's real body was, but Thea didn't know. The parallax demon was attracted by the toad's cells and was flying toward Earth. The yellow ball in front of her was obviously formed by the violent reproduction of the cells. As for whether it was the parallax monster or the parallax demon controlling it, Thea couldn't tell. "Earthling, what are you looking at? You don't seem to be afraid of me?" The yellow ball of light left the toad's neck, and the headless body fell to the ground. The yellow ball of light seemed to be interested in Thea. It circled her twice and asked her a question in her mind. "Nonsense. I'm scared to death. What makes you think I'm not afraid?" Thea did not want to differentiate between a parallax and a parallax. She only knew that she could not defeat one of them. Not to mention herself, even Horus would not be a match for them in his prime. The ball of light circled around her, causing her hair to stand on end, until the ball of light spoke to her in her consciousness. She was so frightened that she did not dare to stand up. "No, you say you're scared, but you're not. Instead, you're excited. What's even more amazing is that you seem to know me. Am I right? This is the first time I've seen someone who knows who I am and isn't afraid of me after so many years." The meaning of the signal transmitted by the yellow ball of light was becoming more and more obvious. "I'm not afraid?" Thea asked herself if she was afraid. She was definitely afraid of Dire Beast, Yojakan, Tianshur, and a bunch of other Dire Beast Smurfs. Even Dire Beast Smurfs were scared to death. On the other hand, she was not afraid of Darkseid, the Anti-Watcher, or the Black Death Emperor. Why was she not afraid? Because they had been defeated before. Although the parallax monster was very powerful, it was suppressed by Senisto like a dog. She knew this part of the storyline. Her fear of the parallax monster was divided among the few big bosses whose names could not be mentioned easily. When it came to the parallax monster, most of her fear of it was washed away by the familiar storyline. Naturally, there was not much left of her fear of it. Sia did not know if her guess was right, but she slowly stood up and found that the whole world was more organized in front of her eyes. The weak breathing of Amanda and the others, and the chirping of insects in the distance, were all echoing in her ears. Thea's mental strength seemed to have increased by a lot. She roughly estimated that it had increased by at least 20%. She stared at the yellow ball of light. Shouldn't this guy be looking for Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps to fight? Why is he circling me? Just as she was wondering if she should say something, the yellow ball of light suddenly began to emit strong waves. This time it was not a mental attack, but some kind of halo. Before Thea could say anything, the yellow ball of light wrapped her in the halo, opened a passage out of thin air, and disappeared from the secret base. Thea watched herself enter the passage in the yellow halo. The thing was too fast, and she did not have time to react. It dragged her into a strange world. Her original worldview was abandoned here. The mountains were moving, and the sea was still. There was no gravity, and many strange creatures that only appeared in dreams were floating in the air. A few giant trees that were as black as ink were chasing after a three-headed rabbit. The whole world felt chaotic and disorderly. There was no hope here, and there was no reason to speak of. This is the antimatter world, one of the negative synchronized universes at the bottom of the universe. The yellow halo explained to Thea for some reason. Thea's mind was not as fast as the halo, and they quickly left the antimatter world. The halo completed 7 warps at an extremely fast speed, and in the end it made a very exaggerated emergency stop and threw Thea out of the halo. With a dexterous somersault, Thea landed on the ground. It felt so good to be on solid ground. There was gravity here. This meant that this was the material world. She did not have plans to live in nothingness for 180 years. Where was this? She looked at the sky first. Very good, very strong. The light was provided by dark gray clouds dotted with dots of green light. Occasionally, there would be gaps in the clouds, and there would be a deep red light behind them. Thea looked at it and felt that it was not a star, but a celestial phenomenon caused by a special gravitational force of a planet. This was definitely not Earth. The oxygen content in the air was very low. Although it was modified by divine power, Thea still felt uncomfortable running into this oxygen-deficient environment. Compared to the nearby buildings, it was obvious that she was at the highest point. She was on top of a mountain. The mountain was very tall and thin, and it stood straight in the center of this city. Earthling, welcome to Oa. Your body is very strong. You have not been transformed by any ring, but you can breathe freely here. It is hard to imagine that you are an Earthling. A voice sounded from the right. The voice was not loud, but it was clear and powerful. Thea looked over. A blue-skinned dwarf with the face of an old man was floating not far from her side.